Hello and welcome to the Raptor Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure to find the Raptor Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. I'm your host, Wim Liu. I'm joined by co-host Blake Murphy. We're having a very exciting day on the show, mostly because the Raptors won for segments 1 and 2, hour 1. We have friend of the program, Vivek Jacob, joining us in studio. Then we're going to take a break. We're going to get to our interview that we recorded earlier today with Dennis Schroeder. And then in segment 4, we're going to go around the NBA to mark the return of Alex Wong, who has a new haircut to debut on the show. But yeah, joining us right now, as I said earlier, Vivek, what's going on, man? You all right?
I'm great, man. The Raptors have some new vibes, some new players, a couple wins, undefeated since the trade. So can't complain.
I don't know what you're doing today, though, Will. We're not doing Canada hockey this week. This is I know the Leafs have won a couple West Coast games in a row. The Leafs and Raptors on a winning streak at the same time for the first time all year. But the teens disappointed us this week. We're not supporting Canadian hockey. You can't even get out of the quarterfinals against Czechia. I don't know, man.
Well, that's why they need the legend, 87. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm trying to binge watch hockey for 2 weeks so that when me and my dad go to
it's not
the
Better
Leafs
Call
game.
Saul or something like that. You can't just catch up on 60 years of Leafs trauma in 2 weeks.
I've been catching a little bits of banter. There's someone named Joseph Wall.
He's hurt. You won't see him next Sunday.
Mitch Marner, trade him.
I mean,
I don't know anything about hockey, clearly.
Look, to draw the parallel, interesting scenario right now where William Nylander pending UFA, but
I've seen him in the Rogers commercials.
Contract extension talks with him right now. A little Pascal to it, a very clear all-star player that maybe the cap gets a little tight, but you'd probably rather have him than trade him.
Is there a discussion everything has to fit around Austin Matthews? Otherwise,
more for the cap perspective, because the way you're structured with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Morgan Riley, with how flat the NHL cap has been, that's more the argument. Is everyone's got to fit around the cap crunch you're in.
All right, V.
I have nothing to contribute to this conversation. I might as well join Alex for a fruity.
That's one. We'll see how many of these we get in. Okay, so let's talk about last night's game. The Raptors go into Memphis and they pretty much lead from the end of the first quarter onward. The Grizzlies make a bit of a comeback in the fourth quarter, make it a 1 or 2 possession game, in certain times, but the Raptors hold on strong. Some great fourth quarter play from Dennis Schroeder, from Emmanuel Quickley, from Scotty Barnes. Pascal chipped in with a couple buckets there too. And the Raptors win 116-111. Vivek, obviously so much of the discussion has been on the two newcomers, Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. Emmanuel Quickley last night was awesome, 26 points. He finished with and 5 assists. What have you made of Emmanuel Quickley, specifically from last night, but also just in the, 2 games since he's joined?
Yeah, so last night, obviously, he had the slow start offensively and couldn't get going, but I think what you see over the course of the game is just knowing that there's different options. There's so many more options offensively. And so, Pascal sustains you for a bit, and then you can get into Emmanuel Quickley getting hot. And then the way he played that third quarter was just perfection, right? And especially when he hit that pull-up 3, I mean, normally that's a possession where you would see the Raptors point guard be like, oh, okay, I can't pull up for this 3, so I'm just going to hold it back. We're going to run our offense, and we'll take things from there. And so for him to just have that freedom, that trust from his teammates, he was glowing about that after the game where he talked about his struggles early, and teammates, coaches, everyone's just telling him, keep shooting, we trust you. And that's how he was able to find his flow. The other thing that I'm really enjoying through these first couple games is seeing him as a two-way player. He's able to defend at, I would say, a positive level. He's a net positive on that end of the floor, and his communication is excellent. There's several times where he's been in the back line of the defense, and you can see him calling out and directing his teammates and letting them know what's happening. And I think that's really encouraging. So I've really enjoyed the Quickley experience so far. At the end of the game, I chuckled because they were trying to get Scotty a post up to close out, and Quickley was about 35 feet from the basket, trying to dump it into Scotty, and his defender was trying to help and trying to deter the pass. From 35 feet, he gave a slight shot fake, and the defender scrambled over.
Yeah.
And that's something the Raptors just haven't had.
Yeah.
And that little thing opens up the pass. He makes the pass in. Scottie goes to work, gets to the line, kind of closes out that game. But just that little moment where he gives a shot fake from 35 feet and the defender's like, I have to respect that. That tells you everything that quickly brings to the table.
He does bring a lot of options. And it's been nice to see the Raptors, for example, come out of a timeout in that third quarter. Darko was like, all right, the Grizzlies cut the lead from like 20 to 10. Let's get a timeout in. And then the first thing they do is they get quickly coming around a screen and they get him an open three. And it's just things like that where it feels like the Raptors haven't had that little bit of pop. He's been able to bring that. Blake, what have you seen from Emmanuel?
Yeah, a lot of little things like that. There was a play in the first quarter where the Raptors are doing kind of one of their standard motion sets where you've got, the pick and roll or a DHO happening on one side and then someone, typically Gary, but in this case it was Emmanuel Quickley. He's going to come off a pin down on the weak side. And then a lot of times what happens with the Raptors is that guy will catch that and go right back into the action with whoever's playing the big role on the other side. But Quickley saw how that was being defended. So as he's coming up and could go over that pin down and pop out for the swing pass up top, he instead cut across the middle of the floor underneath the initial action on the other side and popped out for a three-point attempt on the other side instead. And the defense was completely unready for it. The Raptors didn't have the best spacing around it because I don't think guys are ready for him to kind of make those read and react plays like that. But I thought that was a really good indicator of like the level he thinks the game at and reads plays. And V talked about the defensive communication. I've seen it on offense as well. In that first game, there was a play where Pascal, I think Scottie was posting up. I might be misremembering that, but Pascal cuts into the paint and there's nothing there. And Pascal is lifting back out of the paint because obviously you're not just going to stand there waiting around. And the Raptors, when cuts aren't successful this year, they've done very little second cuts back, like rerun the cut with whoever's next. And so Gary and Quickley were both spacing out on the weak side, and Quickley's like telling Gary, like, go, there's another opportunity to cut. And then he cuts into the paint as a second cut action, and he's wide open for a pass there. So little stuff like that. I also thought all three quarters, Quickley was only on the floor in the second and third quarter, I think, but all three quarters, the Raptors ended with good execution of 2-for-1 situations. So they didn't hit every shot, but each time they were getting a good shot on the front end of the 2-for-1 with enough time to get the second shot off as well, and pretty good defense in between. I think that's a good indicator of, hey, you're well organized. You've got guys who are mindful of game and clock, guys who know how much time they need to get into their shot, how much space they need to get someone else a shot and things like that. I just thought there have been a lot of little things like that where Quickley, and to some extent as well, Dennis playing that bench role where he's in at the end of the first and the third quarter. I thought those parts of the games have looked a lot smoother than we're used to.
Yeah, to your point about the 2-for-1, it's a sign that nature is healing for the Raptors. Because like we had that for so long with Kyle, and then Lou Williams was continuing that tradition.
The Lou for one, as it was known for a long time.
Yeah, the dribble, crossover, fade left, and then maybe draw a foul, which honestly worked a surprising amount of times in that season until the playoffs, where it didn't work once. But Fred continued it as well after Kyle left as well. It's just been weird this season. The Raptors have not really gone for 2-for-1. And I think a key part of the 2-for-1 is you have to have, ideally, you have to have somebody who can just pull up for three because it allows you to not commit too many defenders forward. To chase the offensive glass, for example, you can kind of maintain your at least like defensive transition if the shot misses. And you got a quick shot. Obviously, it depends on the quality of the shot, but it really depends on the talent of the player. That's what dictates the talent of the shot. And yeah, you saw Quickley make that at the end of the third quarter in just like a little two-man kind of game with Dennis. And it wasn't even like much of an action. Dennis just brought the ball up. Quickley was in the corner, ran behind him. He dumped it off, and he shot it from 30. And it's like the simplest thing, but we haven't had a lot of these options available to the Raptors.
Well, that's the thing is when a guy can create for himself, especially above the break like that, like there is in 2-for-1, it's good anyway, but in 2-for-1 situations, it's clock certainty, right? Where like if you don't have someone who has the threat of that pull-up who in a pinch can get a shot off really quickly, well, then if you start an action at like 31 seconds, you're running the risk of, well, not only did you run that action before, like you ran too simple an action, but you didn't get a shot quickly enough, so you botched the 2-for-1. But you don't want to, like if you're accounting for that, you don't want to start that action with like 37, 38 on the clock because a good team the other way is just going to run that 2-for-1 back against you and turn it into kind of a 3-for-2 the other way. So I really do think when it comes to those 2-for-1 situations, the ability to pull up is probably the biggest single skill you can have.
Yeah. So Quickley was great. 26 points. Led everybody on the Raptors.
And the dance. What did we think of the dance? He kind of did the like coming back down after hitting a big day. I think at the end of the
honestly, for me, the positivity is really like encouraging. It's refreshing. You know, like sometimes when you watch like the Raptors play and they make a bucket and you're expecting someone to celebrate, it's usually like Pascal's kind of got like a bit of a surly face. Scotty's been kind of in a mood this last week. So he'll make buckets and the camera pan to him and he's like upset a lot of the times.
Even the freeze kind of went away. We don't like, we still see it, but like it was a big thing the first like 7-8 games and then things went the way they went.
Yeah. I mean, I think there were multiple Raptors runs where I felt like I could anticipate what was coming. And you could anticipate that big punch, right? Like when Quickly is like pulling up for that three, or, you know, those sequences with Scotty and Quickly, like, you know how in the past the Raptors could hurt other teams. And now with the way these pieces fit, you can see, okay, when XYZ happens, like this is going to happen, you know? And to kind of anticipate that in the first couple games is amazing. And I feel like the way the strengths kind of complement each other, it really, really fits well. I'm sure we'll get to an RJ discussion soon. But yeah, in terms of Quickly, like anticipating his success points and how it complements everyone else, like that's what I think makes it easier for everyone.
Yeah, he's settled in really nicely. Okay, let's get to that RJ discussion.
Sorry, I have one last thought on Quickly, if that's cool. There was a stretch in the third quarter, and this is obviously to our conversation earlier this week. A lot of this is going to be how do Quickly and Barnes fit together. Late in that third quarter, Barnes sets Quickly up for a three, then Quickly sends Barnes up for a three, and then they ran kind of a delayed pick and pop where it's initially looks like a pick and roll and Scotty's going to roll, and then he does the kind of like slow moonwalk back into a pop, and then by the time I think it was Xavier Tillman tries to like Quickly finds him, and by the time Tillman tries to close back out on that, Scotty has a huge initial advantage and gets free throws out of it. I think we're seeing little bits of like Quickly and Barnes like that's so natural pairing. I think they're going to figure it out anyway, but it's pretty cool to see already in those Quickly Barnes bench units that they're finding some stuff like that pretty early on.
Yeah, and during that stretch you're mentioning, Gary had a similar play too, where Quickly was able to just, you know, attack a closeout, get into the lane, touch the paint, and now there's a gap literally right behind him. Gary kind of filled in, Quickly threw it right behind him to Gary, and Gary drove that exact same lane for an open push shot. Like things like that, where it's just like you got somebody who moves the defense around, is a threat to shoot from pretty much everywhere, and all of a sudden that creates, you know, more little breakdowns for the Raptors, other guys to feed off of. So that's great. RJ had a really strong start. First quarter, 3 of 3 from the field. I had a couple of defensive sequences. Was tough on the glass, which has been nice to see. Yeah, what have you made from RJ though? Because I feel like over the course of the game, it started to get unraveled. There was a play where he got back-to-back charges against Marcus Smart. Vivek, what did you make of RJ's second game?
Yeah, I think overall, if I had to give him a grade, it'd probably be like a B minus. You know, and I think the thing with RJ right now is his tunnel vision mistakes are so visceral that I think it almost like creates a more negative impression of him as what he provides on a whole.
Precious was an extreme example of this, by the way. Yeah. He's not nearly at the level of Precious, though.
No, exactly, right? But when you look at the positives that he brings to the table, right? Like, obviously, there's the obvious, you know, RJ is slotting in for OG, and so that's where you kind of make the comparisons. But no one is expecting RJ to be the defender that OG is. But offensively, right? What did you want from OG? You wanted more assertiveness. You wanted him to, you know, be more attack-minded. You know, people might have complained that, OG doesn't get the ball. RJ is showing what happens when you do have that attack mindset, right? And so you can create enough opportunities for yourself. And so having that is a bonus. I think his rebounding is a bonus. And I think his ability to handle and just get downhill, get paint touches. We have seen those tunnel vision mistakes. We have seen plays where he's got to the paint and then made some good kickouts. And so I think overall, he's been a net positive. And I think it's just about working away at, you know, identifying the right opportunities, you know, some of those transition plays where he's got open teammates and he kind of barrels his way to the rim. Those are things that he can work on and that needs to improve. But again, I think the visceral nature of like those mistakes makes the perception of him worse than what he really is.
I would agree with that, especially in transition, right? Like you have like the one in the opener where they have his first game where they have the 4-on-2 in transition. He forces a bad pass and it's a turnover the other way. It's like those ones stand out. I know Will Malachi's transition play used to drive you nuts, right? Like the amount of 3-on-1s that they would come away with nothing on. I really do think
no more.
I really do think a mistake in transition sticks with us way more than a mistake in the half court. The other thing with RJ is like to use the old Dwayne Caseyism, he tells on himself. Like we see him make good passes and good reads. There was one yesterday where I think Scotty is in the post. Jaw comes to double. Scotty kicks it out, and then RJ attacks the closeout, and he makes a great read to Pascal on this like late baseline cut. And that's a tough read, and it's a really tough pass to throw it through the helping big. And it's like you see that, and then it's like, well, do that more.
Yeah.
It's so, we know that RJ can make those reads and make those passes is, I think, an extra layer to this. If he was, if Gary makes some of the same mistakes that RJ's made, well, Gary hasn't shown us that he can be that level of pass. He's been like a 1.5 to 2 assist guy, if that. And we know that he's just that's not his game. But RJ's averaged 3 assists a game before. He's been a co-point guard in situations. The Knicks used him kind of the way the Raptors have been using Scotty, where you come back in and you help run that second unit. We know he can do it. So when he doesn't, it stands out a little bit more.
So I've been thinking about this, and a lot of people have been making a comparison between RJ and like a young DeMar DeRozan. Now, I don't think they really play like that similar, but I can kind of get the idea of like a big guard wants to get downhill,
great at drawing free throws,
super aggressive, will burrow his way to the basket. I think DeMar had definitely more athletic pop than RJ does, and I feel like RJ sometimes plays as if he feels like he's a little bit more athletic than he actually is, or a little bit bigger than he actually is. However, I think, one thing that really helped for DeMar's efficiency and his effectiveness overall is at the start of his career, he could pass a little bit. Like, it wasn't like he couldn't pass, but he would only pass when it's like, okay, I'm getting double teamed. This is a scenario for me to pass, and I'm going to pass. And I think as his career has gone on, especially the more that he's run point guard, when he was in Toronto and then eventually San Antonio and now Chicago, you see DeMar throwing earlier passes. Like, okay, I anticipate the double coming. Here's an earlier pass, so the guy I'm passing it to has more time to do it with. I think that's for RJ. Like, he's so aggressive and he's so good at finding a way to score out of nothing that he has that determination all the time. But the more that he learns to trust his teammates and learn to trust the early pass, I think it'll make him fit even better in this offense, because I love the commitment he's bringing. He's like eating moving screens, I think, in both games now. He's getting these contested rebounds. And like, I actually really do appreciate, him bringing an element of transition play to the Raptors. And of course, the Raptors have always been really good in transition. But like, RJ has the kind of transition where it's like, okay, he's at the top of the floor, Raptors rebound, they instantly hit it to him. He's got like 2 guys to beat, and he'll do a spin move in traffic and still get his way there.
And he's so strong. Like, so if you're a backpedaling defender and there's even a little bit of contact, you're going to slide into the stanchion.
Well, he wants to attack the space. He shrinks the space against you, which is so rare.
Steve Jones with us yesterday kind of laid that out. We asked him, what is the thing kind of you think will be the biggest offensive boost for the Raptors? And he's like, the extra shooting of Immanuel Quickley, but this team's going to be crazy in transition. And that's a team that was already really good in transition.
Yeah, in fact, you'll appreciate this. He's like a winger who dribbles at you. He's not a Jack Grealish type, right? Sorry.
He's more comfortable with the ball in your feet than you are with the ball in your feet.
He's
right?
he's like Anthony.
See, I know football.
Yeah, and in terms of like balancing out the good with the bad, there's 2 ways of looking at RJ big picture as well, right? There's the one side where you say, okay, he's been in the league 4 years, and he, like, now in his 5th season, this is, you want to really see things start to turn, but also at the same time, he is 23, right?
Yeah.
And so there is still
he's younger than
a lot
Malachi.
of time.
Younger than Precious.
And so there is still a lot of time to grow. The other side of it is expectations, right? The expectations in New York, him being the 3rd option. Ironically, now he's the 4th option behind Quickley. But I think now that also helps him as well. And, obviously, I think there will still be moments where, he's wearing a Raptors uniform and might be like, hey, I want to have this moment. But I do think that for the most part, even we've seen in terms of running sets and whatnot, he understands that, Pascal and Scotty are at the top of the totem pole, and he just gets them the ball and gets out of the way. And so I think that's all you can really ask for. And I think, again, over time, you want to see those glaring mistakes cut out. And, I think that'll be an interesting thing to track with Darko in terms of that development. And Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the Raptors have a young player who still has room to grow and is a positive contributor right now.
I think his heart is clearly in the right place too.
Yeah.
Like there's not like a
100%.
selfishness to him or anything like that. I mean, obviously he's got his contract, everything's settled, he's back home, but I can see like a genuine desire to just do what the team needs of him.
It's hard, man. It takes time. Like DeMar, I have DeMar's career page in front of me right now. And quick aside, he's having the best and highest volume 3-point shooting season of his career right now.
Yeah. So 3 a game?
35% on almost 3 a game.
Oh, almost 3 a game.
Yeah, which is crazy. But it was year 5 for DeMar, age 24, when so RJ's a little younger than DeMar was in his 5th year. And this was the year DeMar made the jump to All-Star and averaged like 23, 4, and 4. But that was the first time DeMar had averaged more than 2.5 assists a game. Very different situations to compare again, because RJ was RJ in year 1. DeMar was on like a 5, 6, 7 year climb to become who he was. But that playmaking level really didn't come until year 5. And again, he has the ball in his hands a lot more and in a lot different ways than RJ does. But whether it's DeMar or Giannis or, I don't know, any number of complementary players around the league, that level of understanding what defenses look like and do to you and how to help your teammates, like that is, unless you're a really natural pass first guy, that's usually one of the later skills to develop.
And the other thing I'll quickly add there is when you're making that DeMar comparison, when you're getting those contract extensions early, you're paying for future potential, right? And so with DeMar, when he got that initial extension, there were a lot of people complaining, saying, "Hey,
totally,
he's not worth this money."
Yeah,
but he got there, right?
Yeah,
and I think it could be a similar tune with RJ, right? And maybe he doesn't get to the caliber of player that DeMar is, but in terms of what he can provide to this team, being a 4th option. And we'll see if maybe he can grow beyond that. I think it's okay. And like the contract is what it is, but you're trying to get him to that point where you look at it and say, hey, we got fair value here.
Speaking of fair value, I've been loving what Jakob Poeltl's been doing the last 2 games. Now I'm like, all right, I get it. 8 blocks in the last 2 games, 5 last night. Didn't score. He had a lot of good opportunities to score. I think he just like went a little bit soft with some of the finishes. He's more of a finesse finisher anyway, unless he's dunking on Andre Drummond back in the day. But like, what have you guys seen from Jakob? Because it seems like he's more engaged and more importantly, he looks like he fits a lot better. And it could just be the matchup, maybe the last 2 games. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on Jakob.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the matchup because he just went up against Jaren Jackson Jr. and Jared Allen. Like those are Jared Allen is more centery, so at least Jakob's playing inside. Yeah. But like Jaren Jackson could string a guy out, and I know Xavier Tillman played. He started.
He was terrible yesterday.
He started in that game. He was really bad, and like Tillman only played 23 minutes. Like Yak played a bunch against.
Well,
Jaren.
they went small ball. That's like part of the reason why Memphis came back.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Like you could, even though Yak had a really good game, you could have made the argument down the stretch that he shouldn't have closed because what the Raptors were having to do was they were, and this was very smart of Scotty, he was pre-switching with Jakob. So they would try to put Jakob in the pick and roll so that Ja and Jaren could go, one of them would be able to get Jakob. And what Scotty would do is he would come out of the corner, tag Jakob, so Jakob would go to the corner. Yeah. And then a couple times Ja then tried to draw Zaire Williams into the pick and roll. But by that time, you've eaten up a bunch of clock. Zaire Williams is not a natural screen setter and things like that. It was very smart on Scotty's part. Part of the challenge with Poeltl is going to be, we're talking about a game where he looked really good. And you could still make a case that he maybe shouldn't have closed that game. Yeah. Obviously, it worked out the way it did. I think the thing offensively that makes the most sense with Yak right now is when he came over, and again, I still will not, just won't agree with giving up a first-round pick for him, but whatever. He comes over, and it makes sense certainly made sense defensively, made sense offensively because Fred finally had a pick and roll partner and the offense being able to go pick and roll centric, let other guys be in positions that are more natural, right? Like you're not asking them to create too much. You're not constantly playing small and things like that. And then you lost Fred. And then you have a pick and roll center who doesn't space the floor, is a solid passer, but we're not talking about like a Bam Adebayo high post passer here. And there's no one for him to play pick and roll with. And even if you do, Scotty's taken a step as a pick and roll player. Dennis is a solid pick and roll player, et cetera. But there's not like a natural pick and roll usage for Yak, and they're running it way less. And now you look at the roster and it's reoriented where, well, there's always at least one and probably two guys on the floor who can run pick and roll at a given time. The spacing's a little better. So Yak on those kind of delayed rolls into the paint, that is not getting in the way as much of the space that someone else is trying to occupy. So I think there's just like more ways to utilize him as a screen setter and a role guy with this offensive environment. I think probably like this shouldn't be the case because like you are more in control of your defense game to game, but it's true for a lot of guys that your offense can help fuel your defense, right? You just feel a little better. You feel a little more involved in the game, a little kind of snappier and things like that. And I think those things are probably related for him.
Yeah, I think, all those points, when you look at it as a whole, it's the fit is just better, right? And those opportunities for him to excel, he's being put in more positions to succeed. And I think I was more encouraged by this Memphis game than the Cleveland game just because, Jaren Jackson is someone who spaces the floor more than Jared Allen, so he's got to get out and space more. And so I thought that aspect of it was very encouraging. To the finishing, I think he's always going to be a finesse guy. I think he's always got like that volleyball nature to him.
Good finisher, right? He's like shooting like 60+%. Yeah.
I just think he is rushing things a little bit right now.
All right.
And he's almost being too quick with his decision making. Like there's times where I think he sees a pass and like he's almost trying to do the touch pass thing, and then it ends up being a turnover because someone's anticipated it or whatever, right? And so I think because he's so big, I think there are more opportunities for him to just gather and then go up strong. So maybe that's something for him to look at, and he'll probably figure it out from watching the film. But I think overall, there's going to be fourth quarter stretches where he's not the best option to have out there, but you have more opportunities where you can work him into the rotation. We talked about joy, we talked about trust. I think in terms of anticipation defensively, he kind of knows now to a better extent what different defenders are going to do.
Sure.
And so I think that's helping him time stuff better in terms of protecting the rim.
Yeah. I think with Jakob too, I mean, the point about protecting the rim is great because he had contested 16 shots last night. It's the most by anybody on the Raptors. It was a similar number against the Cavaliers. He led the team in contested shots. And whatever, like you want your center to lead the team in contested shots, but sometimes I think about, okay, if Jakob's on the floor, what is he there for, right? And when it's a Pascal and Scotty centric group, or like you're trying to play through those guys, offensively, he's not really there for much. Those guys largely want to get mismatches, and then from there they want to be able to score over the top of them or kick out to the perimeter for three because they're already in the paint. The paint's already clustered. The space is at the top. They generally need to play with guards to be more effective. For Jakob, his screening becomes way more effective when you pair him with a scoring guard. Mm-hmm. So last night, for example, he had 6 screen assists for 14 screen assist points. I know Alex is loving this one. But
double screen assists.
He had 14 points when you look at the screen assists, all right? No, but seriously, though, it's more impactful because now he's setting these bone-crunching screens for Immanuel Quickley to get space and get downhill to attack. And at least my first impression of seeing Immanuel right now is like, I'm not seeing a lot of one-on-one creation as much. Like maybe against a mismatch when he's like isolated against Santi Aldama, he can like burst past him and draw a foul or whatever. But we've seen him a lot, like when he's driving, for example, he's not necessarily finishing so efficiently right now, especially when he's attacking in one-on-one scenarios. But when he's coming off of screens for a shooter to use that gap to shoot the ball, dribble handoffs for, again, Quickley to do it, it fits a lot more now. And all of a sudden, even though Jakob doesn't have anything on his official box score, you could see that he's more involved in contributing to the offense in a way that it just wasn't as possible with him and, Scotty or Pascal.
I still don't think it's like the most natural 48-minute a game fit. The spacing still is what it is.
These days.
You
got to go like super elite, like Jokic and Embiid level, like some bonus.
Right, and this is how in a game where he played well and they won by 5, he ends up a -9, and we don't do the single game plus minus thing a ton, but
sure.
It stands out when you look at it. I don't know. I think it's good that it fits better because you gave up a first and a couple seconds and paid him 4 years, $78 million with incentives on top of that. So you better find, obviously you're not reorienting your team around Jakob Poeltl, but it's good that it makes a little bit more sense to play him 30 minutes a game now than it did. And I'm with you. The turnovers got to come down a little bit. He's got that, turnover rate at almost a career high right now. And you never want to see the turnover rate higher than the usage rate. But yeah, the positive steps these first 2 games for sure.
Yeah, just to go back to the contested shots number, he had 16 last night. He had 19 against the Cavaliers.
19's got to be the highest any Raptors had all year, right?
It's hard to check these things, but maybe I'll try to check it during the break. That's 35 shots contested just by Jakob Poeltl in the last 2 games. The next closest is Scotty at 16.
Yeah.
Wow.
He contested 19 more shots than the next closest teammate.
Yeah, and I bet.
And that's where he does fit, I think, with Scotty and Pascal. Is they actually do need somebody to play center and protect the rim.
Well, especially if the Raptors are going to use Scotty more perimeter oriented now defensively, because I would bet when OG was here, Scotty's contest numbers were a lot closer to Jakob's because he was working weak side help a little bit more, playing the lower half of the floor and letting OG handle the best perimeter guy. If they're going to use Scotty more as a point of attack guy, then you're going to need, Jakob or whoever, but probably Jakob, given that there are no other real centers on this roster right now.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. I love when the Raptors win.
It's nice to have new stuff to talk about, but also, like, this is the bar. We're lowering the bar too low here, but ever since the thing came out of, like, dinner on me after 3 wins, I think this is the first time they've won 2 in a row. Because this is the first time, like, Alex has made the joke of, like, oh, yeah, where are they going to get food in Sacramento or San Francisco or whatever? So
they couldn't have collected free Wingstop in Detroit, though?
Yeah, they did get that. So I don't know. It's a nice shot in the arm for the show in terms of new stuff to talk about, but also just like I don't know. It's nice to have positives on the register, even if like. Yeah, the Cavs down Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, and the Grizzlies on the second night of a back-to-back.
Those 2 teams were both 5-2 right before playing the Raptors.
I know there's someone out there listening and being like, "Oh, these were 2 whatever." They hadn't won 2 in a row against anyone in quite a while here, and it's nice to have steps in the right direction like that, and not only have the wins, but feel like what is happening to drive those wins is something you can continue to build on and see as they take on, a very tough schedule this next little bit.
Yeah. By the way, the NBA's cooked product when the Detroit Pistons score 148 points. But we just got to take a break and process that because
what was that stat? It was like the first time ever that like 5 teams scored 140 in a night.
Yeah, well, the
4 or 5.
The league
Atlanta did it. Cleveland did it. Detroit and Utah both did it. Indy did it. Indy's 4-0 against Milwaukee now. Also, by the way, it's like 4 of Milwaukee's 10 losses have come against Indy.
There was the Oscar Sheepboy loss though.
So 4-1 because they had the in-season tournament. And then Sacramento and Orlando last night went to double overtime and both finished just shy of 140 as well.
Yeah.
So it's Louis Zatzman actually at SB Nation today had a really good piece on kind of the offensive explosion more tactically, how that is happening.
Right.
But yeah, we're still due to have a conversation maybe with Dave DeFore or something about, what does this offensive explosion look like? And does the NBA need to kind of treat it like inflation? You're not going to stop it, but maybe just slow down the growth a little bit so that, Tyrese Halliburton's records aren't like NFL passing stats untouchable now.
No, we're going to talk about the Raptors needing Serb on offense, but we're going to
Serb Ibaka.
Serb Ibaka. Come back from us. All right, we're going to take a break. I've been your host, Willie. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wim Lou. Continue to be joined by co-host Blake Murphy and Vivek Jacob. We are continuing to talk about last night's game, but we want to get to some of the finer details. The Raptors unveiled a new rotation piece yesterday, Jontay Porter, and I know that, Blake, you had the great interview with Jontay on the show about a month back now when he first joined, and he's been doing well with the 905. He's on a 2-way, so he's been, I guess, called up, but he's 2-way. He's going to be in both places. And he's with the Raptors in this road trip. You called it yesterday. You said that your bold prediction was that Jontay was going to get his first chance to put on the Raptors uniform in game. And lo and behold, at the end of the first quarter, before Chris Boucher even came in, Jontay Porter was in the game. So obviously, a lot of people aren't too familiar with Jontay. That's why they should go read your upcoming feature about him.
Tomorrow morning, it'll be sportsnet.ca.
So there's going to be lots of great details. I know you've been working on that. I saw you talking to his brother, Michael Porter Jr., when the Nuggets were in town. So there's going to be lots of great pieces. But before we even get to that story, what did you see from Jontay yesterday, and what should fans expect to see from him?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid debut. Obviously, he didn't score in his 7 minutes, and he picked up a couple of quick fouls. But I think you saw pretty quickly what I like about him, what the Raptors like about him. And the thing that stood out most to me, especially on this team where they don't have a lot of these guys, he set really, really good screens. And that maybe seems like like not something you care about at the top of the list. But we just talked about how important Jakob Poeltl is when he fits the offense. And the Raptors want to run a lot of this dribble handoff stuff. The bench units with 2 point guards are going to run a fair amount of pick and roll. So having a good screen setter like that is important. But what we didn't get to see a lot of, other than kind of in semi-transition, that will flow from those screens and those dribble handoff scenarios is Jonte's a really good passer. Like he was averaging almost 4 assists a game over Detroit and Toronto's G League teams this year. That was the book on him coming out of Missouri, was that, so to give away something in the piece tomorrow, like basically Jonte was like, well, my older brother, Michael Porter Jr., was the number 1 prospect in the entire world at one point. So my job, my whole life growing up playing basketball with him, was do the things that help a star player. So he has built his entire game around how do I be a good complementary piece? How do I set good screens? How do I pass it to the number 1 option in good situations and things like that? And then he had a growth spurt right before college. So he took those perimeter skills and was able to put them kind of in a big man body. So he's passed really well for the 905. He's hit about 37% of his threes this year in the G League. He shot it well in Missouri in college as well. It's kind of been up and down in the G League, but 37% is pretty good. And almost all of those are like pick and pop above the break threes. So the type of threes that, if you think back to the Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka era Raptors, those are going to be available to bigs against pretty much any defense. So good to be able to knock those down at a respectable rate. And then defensively is where I probably have more questions. That the 905 have been really happy with his defense so far. Given that he's had so many knee injuries, you wonder about the mobility in against more, pace and space NBA offenses. The 905 have even at times, he's guarded the pick and roll a lot, but against like particularly difficult pick and roll combinations, they might slide Mo Gay to be the center in those, and Jonte Porter kind of does what Jakob did last night down the stretch, where he switches into a weak corner, because that's just a better way to orient your defense. But I thought last night against a pretty tough duo in John Morant and Jaren Jackson, who were both on the floor for a lot of Jonte's minutes, I thought he looked pretty good. He does a good job kind of shuffling down the side of the paint so that if a guard gets the edge on the screen, maybe they can take that kind of 8-foot bank shot, but they're not able to get to the rim as effectively. Thought he just did a good job with verticality and being big generally. Again, maybe a little bit foul prone, and that's been true with the 905 as well. Some of that comes with, kind of those as a guy's going up with a shot, strip blocks, the Fred VanVleet special.
Yep.
But, for 7 minutes for his first NBA action in over 3 years, coming back from so many injuries, I thought it was a really good start. If he knocks down one of those threes, I think people are really excited about what those minutes look like. And I know the Raptors were happy with, some of the little things he brings to the table. I certainly thought he did enough that tomorrow against Sacramento, we should see him in that spot again. The Raptors have not used that 9th rotation spot for big minutes. 7, 8, 9 minutes, 2 if you're Thad Young the other night. Some nights if Precious wasn't that good, an even quicker hook. So I don't think he's going to see his way to like 14, 15 minutes necessarily. Yeah, but 7, 8 minutes stint in the first half, 4 or 5 minutes stint to give your guys a breather in the second half. I think he's capable of that as basically a redo, like a do-over rookie. I don't know that it's going to be great every single time. Like he's still, even though he's 24 and was in the draft in 2019, this is still a fairly inexperienced guy given all the injuries he's had to come back from. So, don't take this as me saying it's a slam dunk. He's going to be a plus player every single night in the bench. But I think you saw why the Raptors like this guy and why I've said, and Darko has said, honestly, even before we saw him with the Raptors, Darko said, yeah, I think he's a rotation big in the NBA if he doesn't have all these injuries. I think he can play a bench role for this team when right now they don't have another option at center.
Yeah. Jonte Porter last night, 7 minutes, contested 5 shots. 2 screen assists for 4 screen assist points. Gotta look beyond the box score.
I don't
just the next tab on.
I didn't look this stat up. I think he also had like a Gretzky assist, the secondary assist, like in semi-transition, made the hit-ahead pass that then led to a corner 3, but maybe the 3 didn't get made. Either way, I thought. What did you guys think? 7 minutes. 7 minutes is only 7 minutes with 0 points, but the team looked good, and I thought he fit pretty naturally.
He looked solid. I think so. Your options there are like, Jonte Porter, Otto Porter playing backup center.
And he was out last night.
Yeah, which is also one of the things. Thad Young, Jalen McDaniels, or I suppose Chris. But I think Chris is just kind of in the rotation anyway. You kind of need another guy on beside Chris.
And we know that Chris looks better kind of more at the 3-4 spot in those bench units than at the 5.
So it's like you got to take your pick. Otto is your best shooter in that group. He's rarely available. So if he's available, sure, I would love to see Otto, for example, ahead of Jonte. Jalen McDaniels, I mean, he had the nice little moment in the fourth quarter against the Celtics. That was unexpected. I don't think the Celtics were expecting it. They're like, wait, you guys have Jalen McDaniels? But then, you know.
It was the ghost of Pat McCaw.
You know, he could give you a little switching. He's another wing, you know, but like, to be honest, it wasn't like too much of an impact beyond that, what we've seen from him this season. And he's gotten plenty of looks. Thad is just not big enough or like athletic enough to play center. Period.
And it's not worth it. I like Thad Young, but like this team, first of all, we can't say decisively that he's a better option than the other options.
No,
and like
sure.
if you're talking about playing a 34, 35-year-old guy versus a 24-year-old guy in McDaniels or Porter, like you might as well go with the younger guy just to see what you can develop there or figure out. Like, again, I like Thad a lot as a dude, and I liked him in the center minutes last year and stuff. It's just the way that they're 14 and 20. Play the guy who's a decade younger, or the guys
Right. So, yeah, V, like, is there anybody else in the rotation you'd love to see get a chance? Because I think Jonte just makes sense. Like, it's kind of his turn almost.
You hit the nail on the head. He makes sense. I think the biggest thing that stands out to me about what you described about him is that he's someone who will embrace being a complementary piece. And I think some of our frustrations with guys who have come off the bench until recently is players trying to do too much.
Just say his name, man. Precious Achiuwa, baby.
And so I think you had someone who came in and just played his role, was happy playing like he's the ninth man in the rotation, and is just there to do a limited job. And so when you set those base expectations and you're just providing great verticality contests, which, again, I thought was outstanding when you think about you're coming back after so long, getting this opportunity. It would be so tempting to try and just block one of those shots. And for someone who, as you said, can be foul prone, in those moments, he was able to avoid it and just contest. And so I thought that was excellent. I think overall, I thought his positioning, his defensive positioning was very good in those limited minutes. And so I think the one question I would have for you, Blake, is obviously when he's playing with the 905 and he's playing in the G League, teams are trying to get the ball out of his hands. And so those passing lanes, those opportunities really open up. Here you're in a situation where people are saying, hey, take all the shots you want. We are not going to give you the opportunity for passing. And so how do you think he'll handle that challenge?
I think that'll probably be made up for by the fact that he's just playing with much better players. Like the and this isn't a shot at the 905 guys. They've still only played like one game with the actual roster healthy. It continues to be half funny, half really depressing. So I think a lot of that gets made up by having better players around you. And he is, he's not going to string someone out one-on-one with his handle, but certainly comfortable enough to take, two hard dribbles into a dribble handoff if that space isn't there to use it himself. This is kind of like close to the 100th percentile outcome for him. But the way the 905 and Detroit's G League team previously used him, it reminded me a lot of what Isaiah Hartenstein was with Houston's G League team a handful of years ago, where he was... That team was like you remember Nick's stories about the Houston Rockets G League team, right? Like they're all pace and space and lots of threes and stuff like that. And Hartenstein was a floor spacer who didn't shoot threes. So he had to do a lot of that. I've got room for 2-3 dribbles at the top of the floor. I'm a good passer, but I don't want to take the shot. And Jonte will take the three, but I think you can pick a little bit at that. The NBA comp would probably be, and again, we're talking like very good outcomes here. I'm not saying he's going to be this guy, but the kind of style of Kelly Olynyk where, he's not going to take that space at the top of the floor and walk into an ISO and take a mid-range pull-up. He'll knock down a couple of those open pick and pop looks, but he's comfortable enough dribbling to get into the next action or just be patient with a live dribble waiting for a cut to materialize or something like that. There's going to be a big learning curve now. These against NBA defenses and NBA big men will be guarding him and stuff like that. And you're right. He's going to get there. Like he took those 2 threes last night and missed them both. We know how this goes for G League guys who are going to get called up, right? Like you got to make those shots. Even if you're a good shooter in the G League, a good shooter in practice and stuff. Like Malcolm Miller, for example, was very few shooters I've seen over the years in the G League and in practices and warmups and stuff like that as smooth a stroke that drops as often. But if if you're hesitant and you go like 3 for 18 in your first NBA opportunities, you're just not going to get a chance again.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to knock at least a couple of them down, even if you do like the other parts of his games and the things he can do with that space. He's going to have to hit them at, the 36-37% clip he's hitting the G League.
Yeah, Malcolm Miller is a very nostalgic name for me and V because we had once watched Malcolm Miller give his career performance at a Shoeless Joe's outside of what was then the Hershey Center.
Was that the game that he got the spot start out of nowhere to guard Victor Oladipo?
No, it was the Raptors beating the Cavs. Isaiah Thomas version Cavs.
Yeah, it was
Nice.
a showcase.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the ESPN games where they had the Cavs and the Warriors in the same week because the showcase was in Mississauga.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So we were at the showcase,
Uh-huh.
and then obviously we couldn't make it back down. So we went to a Shoeless Joe's that was
So
close by.
I did make it back down.
We
And
also recorded a React pod on my phone in his car.
Nice.
Yeah, which is
I think
somewhere
I can
in the
actually
OT
top
region.
that for hilarious G League stuff that week.
I'm sure you
I
do,
gave
yeah.
Alfonso McKinney a ride back to the arena after the 9:05 game because we were both heading there and he was about to call an Uber and I was like, I'm driving, man. If you,
Yeah?
yeah, we
That's
put
dope.
on Big Crit, get that Chicago hip hop
Oh,
going for
nice.
him.
I
Yeah,
was just going to
we-
ask you if you passed him the aux cord.
I gave him the same recommendations I've given Alex off the show here. Like, yeah, you got to fire up the Elliott Smith. Yeah, here's some Joy Division.
That's
McKinney had a stint with the Warriors too, right?
Yeah,
We
and the
literally
Cavs.
saw him play against. He was guarding Kawhi in the finals. Meanwhile, Blake was Ubering this man to the game, to the G League showcase, no less. Last thing, I don't want to harp on this too much, but it's something I'm noticing quite a bit. It's just that like Scotty has to play through the calls or the no calls more and more because I just feels like there's notable moments in games where and whatever there's like lots of star players complaining about calls. He's not the only Raptor who complained about calls, but I think it's the degree that it gets him disengaged from the game itself or the next possession is a little bit troubling to me. There was a sequence in the end of the Cavs game where he didn't get the call driving on offense. Going back on defense, he just completely ignored Isaac Okoro, who had an open three. And whatever, Okoro's not a strong three-point shooter. He's been okay this season, but it's a wide open three when you're only up 2 in the last minute of the game and not even an attempt to get over there. Are you guys seeing something there where it's just like, how do you get him to be more engaged with the game and less engaged with the no calls?
I actually think the stuff like the Okoro stuff,
Yeah.
I think he thinks that it throws those shooters off more to disrespect them that much. Like there's multiple times where
The
he
old
literally
JV Embiid?
where he literally like waves at them. I disagree with it,
Yeah.
but I think that's what he thinks.
Okay.
And I would obviously prefer for him to just go contest
Yeah.
and be engaged and be in the right positions more often where he's not so far out of the play where he feels like, okay, I'm just better off, doing this. But I think that's what he's doing and I don't agree with it. And I agree that, he's got to have that consistency and engagement. And that's something that has been, it's been better this season without a doubt. Right. And I think he has to like continue to trend upward in that area. And yeah, I think we're seeing, in terms of the spectrum, I wouldn't put it at a Luka Doncic level.
No, he's nowhere near
But
that level. But you also don't want him
but,
to
yeah.
build and get to that point.
It's kind of trending closer to that end of the spectrum than the other way, right? And in a worst case scenario, like what you want to see is, hey, just wait for a timeout, whatever it is, and then express whatever grievance you might have. Stay engaged, stay locked in for the moment. Because again, as we've seen in some of the bad losses that they've had, you're not good enough to take possessions off. You're not
the Raptors.
good enough to have, As a team, you're not good enough to take possessions off. As a team, you're not good enough to take quarters off.
Mhm.
You have to continue to lock in and continue to stay engaged. And so until you get to that point, just keep working at it.
Blake, anything?
I
10
mean,
seconds?
I watched Vince and then DeMar and Kyle. This is nothing yet. The Nick Nurse years. Yeah, you got to be careful though. Like you get, I think you get like one quick sentence and then you got to get back in transition. And ideally that sentence is coming as you're getting back. That's where the risk is. Like you said, that's maybe better for timeouts, but that's experience and relationships with referees as well.
There you go. Okay, we're going to take another break. We're going to say goodbye to V. Been your host, Will. You've been listening to The Raptor Show on the Sports Center.
Dennis Schroeder next.
Welcome back to The Raptor Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wayne Blue. Continue to be joined by co-host Blake Murphy. You and I were here earlier this morning when the Raptors were able to help us connect with Dennis Schroeder for our weekly appearance. And the Raptors it's a travel day for them. So what you'll see is Dennis Schroeder is on the Raptors team bus as we made our call to Dennis. But we talked about, his new role, moving to the bench, moving to a 6-man role. We talked about just his comments around team culture because, I think that I think he was maybe taken out of context in a way. I think he was trying to speak more positively about it.
It certainly made a lot more sense when you watch the entire interview than just a clip or a headline.
Yeah, for sure.
As those things tend to go.
Yeah, which is fine. And it's good that we were able to talk about it and just get his sense about what he thinks of the team culture in general. We talked obviously about last night's win against the Grizzlies and also obviously his thoughts on the Raptors bringing in pieces like Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, and also the behind the scenes of how the rest of the team found out about that trade. So this is our interview with Dennis. Joining us on the program is Dennis Schroeder once again. Dennis, we wanted to start by saying Froy Neu Jahr. How was that?
Wasn't that bad? Frohes Neues Jahr.
Okay, yeah.
Is how you say it.
I think mine was better off air, but you're the host, so
Dennis,
you get the.
We were like sitting in the studio for like 10 minutes just saying Frohe Neu Jahr to each other. It's very silly.
Neues Jahr.
Yeah, that's Happy New Year, obviously in German. Okay, we're gonna talk about a couple of things. We're gonna talk about your new teammates. We're gonna talk about the win you guys had against the Grizzlies last night, which was great. We're gonna talk about just this road trip you guys are on. But I think we wanted to just start out by clarifying a couple of comments that you made after the game against Detroit. Obviously an emotional day. Everybody, finding out that the trade happened, and then of course losing to the Pistons when they were on a 28-game losing streak was obviously really unfortunate. You made some comments after the game just about sort of wanting to get the group back to a point where there's strong culture around the team, where everyone's sort of playing for each other. I want to ask, how did you think that those comments were perceived, and what was sort of your true intention behind some of those statements?
At the end of the day, we want to create have a winning mentality. And I think this organization, won 2019, and they know what it takes, to win. And at the end of the day, I just want to be here long term as well. And we create, winning habits and, just be in a winning organization. At the end of the day, that's all I worry about, win. And we just try to do that as best as possible.
So when you mentioned in those comments, you drew a comparison to the German national team that you just won gold with in the World Cup, and what that culture was like, how long that took you guys to build. Whether it's those comments or just generally, what are you trying to take from that experience with Germany and help bring to this Raptors locker room, whether it's examples from there or how to build that culture over a couple of years?
Yeah, it took a long time for sure with the national team, but at the end of the day, I just want to be, close to everybody, enjoying our time together, because at the end of the day, we more, with our teammates or the organization, have practice and games more than our own families. So just embracing that and being excited and, for me, that's what I do. And don't try to take it's for granted. And just try to create, that everybody is kind of happy to see each other every single day. And create that culture a little bit. And that's the reason why I'm here. Just try to be a leader and try to show it that, we want to do that. Want to, moving forward, want to be like a family, and want to do things off the court as well. That's what we, started to put in as well, going to dinner with the team, just hanging out. And that's how we started in the national team as well. And it's going well so far.
And speaking of dinner, you guys are one win away from Darko being on the hook for a team dinner, so that's good. Dennis, after those comments on Saturday, again, the reaction to them was maybe not in the spirit that you meant them. Did you talk to teammates about that to clarify what you had meant, or Is that kind of known already in the locker room what your intention is and kind of what you meant there?
At the end of the day, everybody want to win. Everybody's competitive. Didn't talk to nobody after after the interview, because everybody, I think, knows that I just want to win, and it's about winning in the NBA. It's hard to win in the NBA, and just try to keep everybody engaged, and I think we still can turn things around. We try to work every single day to get to that point, and like you mentioned, we got new players in. They're doing a great job of, being in that system and embracing it. And everybody else in the locker room doing the same thing. And we just want to keep getting better every single day.
Yeah, let's talk about those the new players coming in, because that was obviously a huge trade that took place just before the Neue, as we have previously tried to butcher and say in German. No, but seriously though, take us through that day. Like, how did you guys find out the news that OG, Malachi, Precious were leaving the team, and that Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett was joining the team?
Yeah, he was in Detroit, having the breakfast meeting. And, coach mentioned that, you guys don't see 3 players right now, who've been with us all season. It was, of course, shock for everybody because, we didn't really expect it, and they family, they friends, because, I've been with them like 2-3 months, but at the end of the day, like I said, we spent the most time with them, with our teammates, coaches, front office, whoever, and that people is not there no more, it's always kind of shocking. Of course, OG been there 7 years. For him, it was tough as well. Everybody reached out. Everybody, got to see him, talk to him. Mel and Precious, same thing. But at the end of the day, we just tried to do the best as possible, to go out and still win a ball game. I think we played really hard that game as well. But we came up short. And to have, Quickly and RJ Barrett gives us a little, the guard who can handle still, RJ who can attack and transition, even shoot threes quickly, being kind of like a Tyrese Maxey coming off screens. It was, for us, I think it was great. OG, Precious and Mel, we love them. But I think we just, got to keep moving forward. That's the, the NBA side of it, the business side of it. And we try to make the most out of it.
So, Dennis, you've been on both sides of this. You've been traded in season. You've been on teams that made trades and brought new guys in. You show up to OVO Center on New Year's Day, and those guys are there for the first time. What is that part of the process like, you guys getting to know these guys and trying to work them in with no real practice before the first game?
Yeah, they came before the arena just to make sure, they got the basic plays. Went it with the coaches so they know what's going on when we play. And, they did a great job, went there early. And I think they did a great job in their first game, and we won that game as well against Cleveland. I think they adapted very well, and we made it, a little easier for them, I think, because we want them to be a big part of, what we're doing. They're still young. Like I said, good shooting, transition, just what fits in our system, and, building the team around Scotty. I think that's 2 great pieces, we brought in. And we just want to make sure, like I said, just want to get better every single day and, try to try to keep pushing and keep getting better every single day. I think then we're going to be fine, end of the year.
Dennis, I noticed that shoot around as well quickly had taken Malachi's spot in those shooting groups. I know you and Malachi and Garrett Temple had some pretty intense shooting competitions at the end of practices. You warn them what those are going to be like? You know how high the level of competition is in your shooting groups?
Yeah, nothing gonna change there. Always competitive. Of course, Mel, I try to, and he did a great start this season. To just being confident and come out there, and change the game defensively and even offensively sometimes, playing his role very, very well. And I'm happy for him. I hope, that he's going to get, his time with New York and going to play a good role for them. But I mean, cricket is now with us, and same rules apply. So it's going to be very competitive, and we're going to be going at it for sure.
You guys are going to learn Bure real quick if you don't know it already, right?
What's that?
They're going to learn Bure real quick if they don't know it already.
Oh yeah, they know it already. That's the NBA game, so everybody know that.
Yeah, that's where they're heading for the flight. That's where they're gonna do that game. Okay, listen. With the game last night, obviously you guys were able to take down the Memphis Grizzlies. I noticed a lot in this game. Darko had you on Ja Morant, and I was curious because obviously you guys had played them last year with the Lakers, and you had a lot of the minutes guarding Ja Morant. What were some of the experiences like? Could you drop back on what you did last year with the Lakers in trying to guard against Ja, who obviously is an incredible player?
Yeah, amazing player, man. One of the best, point guards in this league, and face of the NBA, future face of the NBA. It's a couple of those in the league, and we played them, like you said, last year in the playoffs, and I think we did a great job of the game plan. I think the coaching staff with the Lakers and Darvin Ham did a great job coming up with that, sending him left. Because if he comes off, left with the pick and roll, he kind of looks for, the hostage dribble. And, and then for the floater, if he goes right, you're doing that flamingo dribble. And then after that, what comes next. And I mentioned that, in the film session earlier that day in shoot around that we might want to send him left. And Coach Darko knew, because he was on that training staff, that coaching staff, that we did a great job. And he was like, man, I like it. And that's the reason why I always say Darko doing a great job of, listening to his players. Sometimes when, somebody got a suggestion about a different defensive coverage. And, it worked well. He still played a great game, but I think we limited a little bit, and slowed him down a little bit and got the W.
Yeah. We got to ask you sometime about what the flamingo dribble is.
You could picture it. It's pretty descriptive term there, the flamingo dribble.
I used to, in Germany, we call the flamingo dribble is that drop, dropping the ball and then do the hezzy without no dribble.
Oh, okay. All right. Got you.
The jab step to the right and going left. That's how he caught a lot of bodies. If you're watching his highlight tapes.
He did that to Wemby the other day.
He's done it to Jakob, your teammate, a few times.
Yeah. A few times, yeah.
I was going to ask, too, about, your conversations with Darko, because, we haven't spoken to you in 2 weeks. How was that conversation like when he decided to have that conversation with you about, Dennis, you've been starting all year, but I think going forward, we want to try to see what you look like, in a six-man type of role. How did that conversation come about, and how did you receive it with Darko?
He came up to me and he said, man, we got, 29 games in, 30 games in, want to make a change. And I always said, I'm professional. Every single time when I'm on the court, I try to do everything best possible for the team and try to win, and he thought, it's going to be great, to lift the bench up, to make sure, I come in as a six-man and help the second unit. And I think it's been great so far as well. Every role, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna take real good pride of it and just try to make the best out of it. And I think just being a professional over the last 5 years, playing with Hall of Famers, and always try to find my way to affect just winning. And I think so far it's working, especially with Quickly coming in and RJ Barrett. I think it's working really, really well.
With Quickly in particular, if you're whether you're coming off the bench or starting, you guys are going to play a lot of minutes together, more than you played alongside Malachi. He didn't play a ton of minutes with Jalen Brunson in New York because Tibbs just doesn't play that way that much. When you and Quickly are on the court together, what changes for you? Are you anticipating, setting him up, looking for him coming off the ball for those threes? Are you looking to come off the ball a little bit more? How do you think that chemistry will develop for you two?
Like I said, the last couple of years with a lot of great players, and Quickly is one of them. He's still young, but I think he is going to take over this year, and he's going to make sure that he had a lot of great games last season, being a starter with the New York Knicks, and I think setting him up, of course, still being aggressive, but setting him up when we got that two-man lineup out there, I think we should play faster, one pistols, slip outs. I think it's great, to have that. Of course, on the defensive end, we got to make sure we rebound, but I think on the offensive end, we can play much, much, much faster. And second game, third game tomorrow, we still learning each other, but I want to just let him know, and he knows now already that I want to make sure he in the right spots. We talking about what he likes, what I like, and we just got to keep building that chemistry. And of course, then him with Scotty is really important, with Pascal. That everybody, get involved in that, and I think that we'll be fine.
Yeah, and Dennis, we've taken a lot of your time. So, last question: we've been looking at your sunglasses, and they're very reflective. And I think who is that sitting across from you? Is that Pascal? Like, what's going on? Because you're in the team bus right now, so all we can see is these sunglasses, man.
I try to, blow nobody's cover,
Yeah.
But yeah, we at the airport now.
Got you.
About to get on the plane and have a 3.5 or 4 hour flight. So gonna get some rest, and then we got a team dinner tonight. Get together, and then be ready for a shoot around tomorrow.
There you go.
These are obviously really exhausting trips, 6 games across a number of different cities in the West Coast, but especially with 2 new guys in there. Can this be a good trip for you guys, as a group, camaraderie wise and everything?
Yeah, I think so. I think we gotta use it. I mean, everybody respect when we at home. People got families. I got 3 kids, my wife, my people. It's always tough to get together there, but I mean, when we on the road, we try to, make the most out of it, playing cards together in the room, go to dinner. I think it's always great, just to be around and enjoy that, being in the best league in the world and enjoy everything, embrace it. And I mean, I've been 11 years now in it, and really grateful for that. But just enjoying every single day. I can live my dream, kind of.
Yeah. There you go. That's a great attitude. All right, Dennis, we wish you a safe flight, and keep the wins going. All right, it's looking really good right now.
All right, man. Got you.
That was our weekly interview with Dennis Schroeder, who was kind enough to call us from the Raptors team bus. Yeah, I'm still gonna be wondering who was in directly across from him, because you could see it in the reflection on the sunglasses. My best guess is Pascal Siakam, probably wearing a Red Bull hat, but yeah.
I'm still fascinated by the term flamingo dribble. So for anyone who didn't catch that, Dennis was trying to describe, really insightful stuff on how to guard Ja, and Jaw, when you can force him left, he gets into, Dennis called it the hostage dribble, or trying to keep the guy on your hip so you can get into that floater range. And we went back after that interview. This is a benefit of getting to do the interview this morning. We went back and watched some of the Jaw defensive possessions from last night, and Dennis did it really effectively.
Yeah.
And when you have that specific a book on a guy, and Jaw is probably going to go into floater range, not to the rim, immediately it helps your bigs out a little bit, because they have to plan for fewer options. But the flamingo dribble term for when Jaw goes to his right and does the kind of the no dribble crossover that I think more people know as like the Smitty in the NBA. We could not find like you, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. Flamingo dribble is not a common term. I'm going to use it always now, though.
Yeah, there you go. I hope in the game. I hope that's what you mean, is in the game. But
I'm
we
not going to use the move. I will use the term flamingo dribble. I can barely do a dribble.
Right, just a regular dribble. Like no adjective, just dribble.
I can dribble, but I'm not pulling out a flamingo dribble. That's for sure.
Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to see it at some point in the future. But we are going to take our last break. Thanks to Dennis for giving the interview. And I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wayne Liu. Finally, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Blake Murphy and Alex Wong, who makes his triumphant return to the show. For people listening on the podcast, he is rocking close to a faux hawk. He had cut his hair and shown his hairline for the first time in many shows, and he's wearing a Linsanity tee. So what's going on, Alex? Welcome back to the show, man.
Yeah, I've been battling a non-COVID illness. Still non-COVID as of this morning.
To be clear, he did test and it was negative. That's why he's here.
Yeah, it took me 2 hours. Actually, it took me 2 days to find COVID tests in the city, man.
It's hard to find masks as well.
Where's Olivia Chow at, man? Yeah, is this a faux hawk, Blake?
No.
Okay.
No,
How is this not a faux hawk?
cut. Well, because it's not a faux hawk is a mohawk, but done fully. This is
Emmanuel Foley.
This is clearly not
The
in the
Folger
style
soap.
of a mohawk. Now, look, the cut, the way it is shaped on the sides and the length of the spike up front, he could faux hawk this no problem, but he has not styled it in the shape of a faux hawk by way of going spikes everywhere. We need to see a little bit more coming to a point down the middle. Not you don't have to do it all the way, but like you'd have to see it, pushed in a little bit from the side.
We need a flamingo style.
Flamingo dribble, yeah.
Let's go around the NBA.
It's been a while since we've gone around the NBA, man.
And let's start right here in Toronto.
Okay.
So new acquisitions, of course, and new nicknames for this team. One that has been going around. I didn't properly credit this to the right person on Twitter. Please reach out, yell at me. But because Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Emmanuel Quickley, their names form BBQ.
Mm-hmm.
And add in Pascal, Spicy BBQ is the name for this foursome right now.
Okay.
Are we approving this, or are we moving on?
I wish we had a Korean on the team so we could have Korean BBQ. That'd be so sick.
Well, the addendum. Actually, you guys go ahead first. I have an addendum after.
I don't mind it. It's less corny than at the height of soccer, for example, like a decade ago, it was like MSN was like Messi, Suarez, and Neymar.
No way.
Was the attacking trio of Barcelona against BBC of Bale,
No way.
Bale,
Come
Benzema,
on.
and Cristiano for Real Madrid.
This is like when Sam Decker was the BBL MVP.
Oh, okay. I thought
We're going with bad acronyms that suggest other things. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually think BBQ is kind of nice because you cook another team. It fits theme wise, and I think Pascal on top of it is tough. I mean, you basically only have yak who you're left leaving out of there.
Yeah,
spicy yak BBQ.
We can leave yak out of it. It's fine.
Like a really cultural dish. Maybe?
Like, do you think, Blake? Do you think this is good enough? Like, friend of the program, NS Esmer was able to get Spice and Dice onto the Raptors broadcast via Matt Devlin.
Okay.
Do you think spicy BBQ can reach that level?
I appreciate trying to make sure Pascal's included in this. I think it just works way better without the spicy part of it. Look, we're gonna have some lineups where those three are on the floor and Pascal's not. I think you just run with the BBQ trio there. I sincerely appreciate the effort of working spicy in there.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a little too clunky.
Now I know that Grady Dick is under a Planet Fitness program right now.
Yeah.
To get back.
It's a New Year's resolution.
But if you add him to the young mix, right?
Oh boy.
It could be spicy BBQ and then Grady's name. Yeah. No.
What are we doing?
Grady Dick.
What are we
What, we haven't watched How Hungry Are You?
Yeah, I didn't Surge. Yeah, Surge served that one time.
Yeah,
right?
so anyways.
Grady Dick, 9:05 tonight, by the way, against Kobe Buffett. Everyone will react rationally to Kobe dropping 30.
Everyone will look at the box score, see which one has a better box score, and say their agenda or reaffirming their agenda. That's kind of how online discourse
That's how we
goes.
do.
Yeah. I saw that Jalen Hood Shafino shoot a crazy brick yesterday in that Lakers Heat game. So I guess at least we missed out on that one. That was good.
Had Demoy Hodge look in the garbage time of that one. By the way, I have one more nickname thing.
We have a lot of nicknames, but go ahead.
Yeah,
go
I have a nickname thing from this trade. And I can't imagine there are a lot of Knicks fans listening. But please stop trying to give a guy whose first name is literally OG a nickname.
What are they calling him?
Yeah.
Like OG Clamps Ananobi. It's like his name is OG.
Oh.
His first name is literally a nickname you give people. Just roll with OG as a name. You don't need to look, I like doing the clamp emoji on an Instagram highlight or whatever after I lock Samson down or whoever it is. But nice. You don't need to force a nickname for a guy whose name is literally OG.
By the way, I'm really enjoying the Knicks fans just seeing regular OG appearance games. And being completely wowed. It's similar to us looking at, relatively speaking, regular Emmanuel Quickley games or regular RJ Barrett games and being like, oh my God, this is mind blowing. After every game now, I'm seeing people going to tracking stats. I saw one, I think, of courtesy of Tommy Beer, who's a Knicks reporter or fan.
I thought that was a new sponsor.
Nah, man. We'll never drink that. But he tweeted out the stat that DeMar DeRozan was 1 of 3 when guarded against OG. Against all other Knicks, DeMar was 9 of 10. And I'm like, man, I've been seeing OG guard DeMar well for 4 or 5 years now.
Summertime, springtime.
Also,
wintertime.
I like Tommy, and this isn't a thing with him, but for anyone who is seeing or using those, be very, very careful with individual matchup stats on NBA. They are notoriously not well done.
They're not reliable right now.
They're not well done. People in NBA analytics teams are don't use them. I think they're helpful for trying to capture how much time a guy spent guarding whom and stuff, but wouldn't go too far. You also don't want to use single game plus minus too much, but OG's had was plus 35 yesterday and was, I think, plus 19 in his first one. So
and a close game, too.
He has the highest plus minus in the NBA since the trade.
Yeah,
nice.
And if you want to catch OG Anunoby, just turn on the next game at any point because I don't think he has sat outside of fouling out. This is Tom Thibodeau's new toy, and he's gonna run this.
He
into
came
the ground.
out with 40 seconds left in last night's game because they were up 16 with less than a minute to go. Adama Sanogo was in the game for Chicago, and then Tom Thibodeau.
That man does not play for
and
Aston
then
Villa,
Tom
man.
Thibodeau was finally okay, you guys can get out of here.
More nicknames. I saw Maple Maxi for Emmanuel Quickley.
I don't hate that.
Okay.
I just don't think that we need to tie his legacy to another player.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're searching right now.
We got Maple Mamba and Maple Maxi.
Yeah, so Maple Mamba. I don't know why that's so funny.
It's
for RJ Barrett.
Look, I love
Maple
throwing
Mamba.
maple on the front of anything for the Canadian guys. Like Wiggins being Maple Jordan was obviously ridiculous, but Maple Mamba is fun. Especially
Why
now.
is it so stupid?
Now that I know, now that we did the Chinese nicknames thing, and I know how many players have Mamba related Chinese nicknames. If you had told me this 6 months ago, I'd been like, no, you can't give a Kobe nickname to someone else. Now that I know half the
And Clint
NBA
Capella
is
Pancake
Mamba. Yes, I'm all for Maple Mamba. I love that one.
Goodness.
Headband Row. These are nicknames on RJ's basketball reference.
All right, hit me.
Star J.
Star J.
Yeah.
Like Starbury?
Like RJ, but Star J. Like he is star. No? Broadway. I guess we got to change this one. Broadway Barrett's not going to work anymore.
It's not going to be like King Street
Bathurst Barrett, yeah.
Massey Hall Barrett.
Massey Hall Mambo
Yeah,
would have a
Massey
good ring to it.
Massey Mamba is actually kind of sick.
Duke of York? What's going on? That's a bar on King, man. I'm pretty sure. All right, so no good nicknames for RJ.
So the one I'm most curious about, and I had never heard him called this, is another one on there is Ducky.
Right. What is this?
So
in reference
I don't
to?
know, but Ducky is like an East Coast term of endearment. Like my grandma called me Ducky all the time when I was a little kid. And so I have no idea where this comes from for RJ Barrett, but I like it as a East Coast roots person. It's a very nice old lady. You see your mom's friend and she calls you Ducky.
Duck is my favorite animal. but that's apropos of nothing.
To eat?
I mean, yeah, but also I just like that they can.
Quack Mamba over here.
Oh my God.
No, my first email was
Pork
Ducky
belly.
Duck. Was Ducky Duck
Joey
too.
Quack.
I'm serious.
Joe Wolfon,
Yeah.
who we know for his personality, also submitted a few on Twitter yesterday.
All right, let's hear it.
Emmanuel Griftly,
No, he doesn't play for the foul like that. No, I don't think
Okay.
so. That's unfair.
and
That's
then
unfair.
a reference to the philosopher Immanuel Kant. Emmanuel can't be stopped.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't
man.
know that.
This is what Katie was talking about when he said blog boys. Like,
Yeah.
Joe Wolf on a peak blog boy.
Yeah, I don't
Definitely
know
not for me.
that. I don't know that everyone's up enough on their Immanuel Kant.
Oh,
Mm.
Kant.
Philosophy.
Oh, it's Kant.
Yeah, he's the famous. If you've ever heard the term the categorical imperative, or like the quotes about like theory without experience is whatever. You can get into some very like Joe Wolfon's
Damn.
first feature on Immanuel Quickly is going to be loaded with Immanuel Kant references, but I don't think as a nickname it's going to work very well.
No, him and Lewis are in this bag, man. Him and Lewis are the two go-to Raptors reporters or writers.
Yeah,
who
be
would-
careful.
who
You
would
might
include these
catch
kind of
Dune
references.
spoilers.
Did I
if you
pronounce
read
his
them.
name right?
Yeah.
Let's see what else. So we were messing around with the Emmanuel Quickly
Mm-hmm.
kind of name format. John
We
Tay.
just rip it off Emmanuel Quickly's name. Yeah,
I
go
want to
ahead.
see if I can do 30 minutes of this. John
All
Tay
right.
Porter.
Yeah.
How about Emmanuel Slowly?
He does move fairly slow for a guy
Yeah.
who's 24, but obviously coming off the knee injuries.
Yeah.
But also, I don't mind it. I kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got one.
I dig
Emmanuel
it, yeah.
slowly. All
You
right.
know how Darko famously wants everyone, like the Joker, to put a smile on their face.
Mm.
Emmanuel Smiley.
He
That's-
really is grabbing every point guard and being like, "Why so serious?"
Emmanuel Smiley for Darko.
Yeah, that was, I guess, if Malachi was still here.
Yeah. Malachi, by the way, damaged goods, arrived in New York with an ankle injury.
Yeah, what happened?
I wasn't aware of
Stepping
this.
off the plane.
I feel
Yeah.
like don't the players have to pass through a physical? I guess it's like not a
but,
serious
like,
injury.
Yeah, you're
It wasn't
passing a
gonna hold up the
physical to
trade
make
either?
sure, like, when they look at your knees, they're not held together with silly
Mm.
string. I don't think like your ankle's a little swollen is going to be a big deal. Also, I don't imagine he's in the plans
But yeah.
for New York anytime soon.
By the way, speaking of nicknames, you probably would have gotten it already, but the Knicks fans immediately calling him Evo Dante.
Yes, I have this on the list as well.
DiVincenzo's very good.
Malachi has been called Evil Dante DiVincenzo,
Nice.
which is
Yeah.
amazing.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like the South Park bit where like there's an evil version of everyone. They just have a goatee, and that's how you. I guess Community did it at one point too.
Yeah,
but I think
yeah,
South
yeah,
Park did it
that's right.
first.
Yeah.
Everyone, the evil version of you just has a goatee.
Yeah. That's why it
Yeah.
was so easy to hate on the Super Team Warriors. Even Clay had a goatee for a while.
And Eric Flynn seemed pretty happy that Malachi landed in New York. I think he thanked
Shout out
the Knicks.
Raptor Nation.
Yeah, I think he thanked the Knicks.
He's just a thankful guy.
Yeah, respects.
Mm.
Yeah, that's it for the nickname segment.
All
Unless
right.
you guys have anything.
I thought you had more Emmanuel Quickly nicknames, but I guess not.
No, we'll have to keep them off air.
Okay.
All-star voting.
Mm.
First fan returns
Yes.
today. So, Scotty Barnes, obviously the name for Raptors fans to keep an eye on. He did not even crack the top 10 in the Eastern Conference front court.
So,
So-
among his own position?
So number 10, Paolo Banchero,
Mm.
163K votes. Kyle Kuzma, 178K.
Hmm?
Kristaps, Porzingis, Mikal Bridges, and then Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, and Giannis. Kind of surprised he's not in the top 10, right, Blake?
Yeah, very. So two things here before getting into this is a little flummoxing that he's not in the top 10 here. Raptors fans usually represent pretty well in these votes. So the first thing I'll say here is Raptors fans are also notoriously slow to the fan vote. When Kyle and DeMar made their big pushes to be all-star starters in the past, it was almost always a huge push on the last balloting. Like Kyle and DeMar would start like 5th or 6th among East guards, and then fans would like get to it at the last moment. I don't know if that's like a prove 'em kind of thing, like that part of the fan base where like it takes you getting disrespected to hit the polls. But either way, I'd expect this to come up. I'd expect there to be a response here. The second thing is I got asked this a couple times on Twitter. So for anyone who doesn't remember how the format works, the fan vote counts for a good chunk of what determines the all-star starters. Fans count for 50%, media count for 25%, players count for 25%. But there are still all the reserve spots that are voted on by coaches, usually assistant coaches and video coordinators, but it's supposed to be head coaches.
Azotam doing this?
In each
we good.
conference.
Noah
no
Lewis.
Knicks getting in.
Pure Hooper, Noah Lewis?
So don't worry too much. Like, certainly get out and vote if you want the Toronto Raptors to be a part of the All-Star game. This would be their best chance of being starters, but it will not mean that they can't make it. This only helps determine the starters.
Yeah. I blame this on two things.
Okay.
Number one, Raptor Social was wasting a couple days pushing OG for All-Star.
15 points a game.
So that cost Scotty a little bit.
And that's an issue I've always had with,
Yeah, well, it's like politics. It's
every
politics,
team does
right?
it, yeah, but like I mean, I guess you could just vote for all Raptors, but I think it's just
The Warriors did one for Clay, and the highlights were all about previous seasons.
Oh, they're showing 2019 play.
No, they were
and
showing
stuff?
like his history as a player.
Okay.
And on the same night, Clay went to the podium and was pulled at Jeff Teague. He's like, "Yeah, I told Steve Kerr I suck now," because like he was talking about like the latter stage of his career.
Yeah, realizing you're washed is a wild experience.
No, you gotta embrace it. And then the second part is Raptors fans have been too busy trying to get Bobby and Masai fired. They haven't been doing the hashtag. So now we gotta refocus.
I suppose. I think what's disappointing to see this is just like, as you mentioned, like Toronto has a huge fan base.
Yeah. Where are we right now?
Like to see, for example, I know whatever. I'm sure Şengün gets a huge push from Turkish fans as well. But the fact that he has 335,000 and Scotty at minimum has lower, or at maximum has lower than 163, which is the lowest on this list.
So half, less than half.
Less than half.
No, but like Kyle Kuzma, you can't even beat Kyle Kuzma.
Like, you could say that, like, okay, obviously Turkey's behind
Sure.
Şengün. Like, Canada should be behind whichever player that we're trying to push for. So,
also, while you're doing those ballots, by the way, I'm putting Raptors on there. Shea's only third among Western Conference guards. I know it's Luka and Steph. I get it.
But also,
and I would totally understand if Shea doesn't end up starting in the All-Star game, but he's like at worst number 3 in MVP candidacy right now. You have to fill out the Western Conference when you're filling out the Eastern Conference anyway. So while you're voting for Toronto Raptors, just throw Shea in there.
You guys remember back in the day when they would hand you like a Scantron card in the arena?
Yeah,
it was
like
so
a punch card.
Yeah. I missed that.
I would like at Blue Jays games, and this is the era where, I mean, they had Scantron cards, so obviously the Blue Jays were not quite as good. You could stack like 30 of them and like over the course of the game, just like punch holes in a bunch of them and like just stuff the ballot box that way.
This guy was going that hard for Lyle Overbay?
Yeah. I
Sean
mean,
Markham?
look, the Blue, you want to talk about social media teams promoting bad All-Stars.
Oh, man.
There was a year where the Toronto Blue Jays had a social media campaign to get middle reliever Steve Delabar into the All-Star game.
Delabar was a beast.
Hashtag raise the bar.
No
that's
way.
pretty good.
They had a hashtag just for him.
Maybe we need one for Scotty. I think that might help. Also, by the way, I guess no one is at all trying to push Pascal for the All-Star game, even though he's also been awesome.
Well, I think people are trying to push Pascal to Indy for a different way.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think we need to see if Pascal can adjust to Darko's system first.
Yeah. I only have one other thought on the All-Star voting returns, and this is similar. I mean, it's a similar situation to Scotty. 6th among West guards is Anthony Edwards with under 300,000 votes. Kind of thought he would have captured the NBA fan base more by now. The Minnesota Timberwolves have been arguably the best team in basketball. Anthony Edwards is averaging crazy numbers super efficiently. He's a highlight machine on both ends of the floor. I expected him to be higher up there, man.
Yes or no, though? Because I do feel like this is like a big snapshot of like moments, right? And if anything else, like Tyrese Halliburton leading all guards in the Eastern Conference, for example.
Sure, but he's the exception because if you look around,
that's the in-season tournament effect, I think.
Yeah, but like these All-Star, like look at who is in the spots everywhere. This is an old vote. Like this does not seem like a young people vote. Like LeBron, KD, Anthony Davis, Kawhi, Paul George as 5 of the top 6 Western Conference front court players. Obviously, those are all good players, but you're not seeing a ton of youth in there. Steph, obviously, among the guards, but James Harden's still 4th among guards in the Western Conference. You've got Kyrie higher than Anthony Edwards
bottles
and
of wine
Ja.
in China. I think he's good. Like
I'm just saying, it skews.
He's good in the Far East.
It skews older than I would have thought. Like Jimmy Butler being still 4th among Eastern Conference front court players. Obviously, Jimmy Butler's still really, really good. He's missed a ton of time this year, and like I don't know. I guess I got used to the All-Star vote skewing a little like younger star focus, and maybe this is just the era we're in the NBA where so many really guys who are going to go down as legendary are in kind of the twilight of their careers. Maybe that's just the moment we're in. But I was a little surprised to see these returns. And really, Tyrese is the only young guy who's kind of like, hey, I'm here on this fan ballot. And again, it's first ballot returns and things like that. But it was a little surprising.
Yeah, we're fully in a bubble too, right? Because like an argument would be like, okay, Scotty's averaging 20 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. He's only one of like X number of guys who do this in the league. His BPM is really good. Like BPM's not moving the average like 1 million people who vote on like Giannis, for example.
EPM. We're going to use EPM.
Okay,
BPM.
BPM,
We prefer
EPM,
EPM to BPM.
or
What's BPM?
BPM is box plus minus, so it's box score. It's
Oh,
all
you
based
taught
on
me
box
this.
score inputs.
You taught
so
me this.
EPM takes box score plus minus, but
Yeah.
also takes a bunch of
I feel
other
like these are all
relevant
the buttons
information.
when I'm on the treadmill.
Yeah.
No, but I think you have a good point, Blake. And I think the thing is like, obviously this voting is like whatever, like worldwide and stuff. And like Will mentioned, some of these players have a huge international presence. And it's also like which players are being marketed to like the general / like casual fan, right? Like, even though we know that the Timberwolves are like crushing it this year and Anthony Edwards has made the leap, like how often are they like on like national TV, et cetera, things like that, right? Like they're not on the Christmas schedule. They're not featured and talked about in a way. So I think this fan voting stuff is actually interesting because it does reflect some of that.
By the way, we have an update from a couple of people on Twitter. RJ's the Ducky nickname comes from, that is RJ Senior's nickname from as far back as high school. So I guess it's just been adopted.
Oh,
for
this is
RJ.
Rowan.
Yeah. So Rowan, that is Rowan. So thank you to the couple of people who mentioned that on Twitter.
Damn, we were not outside in 1980, apparently.
You weren't even.
I mean, I'm sure it's also been like explained on broadcast before.
Okay,
I just somehow honestly it feels odd to have missed it. Like,
yeah,
like being around. Like Rowan is
it has been. Yeah.
is the GM of the
we've
national
all talked
team.
to Rowan at some point.
Yeah,
Next
it's
time,
weird.
I'm gonna be
I
like,
had
"What's up,
never
Ducky?"
clued that in before.
Yeah, you go ahead and do that.
I wonder
man.
how that's gonna go.
Let's see how that's gonna go, guys. Is Derek White gonna make the All-Star team? Man, I'm stressed out. Like,
I mean, it's going to come
he's
down
not
to
gonna
coaches.
make it. Yeah, he's not gonna
get
make it in the
enough votes,
voting, but like JJ Redick's been giving him like a huge bump. Like he's getting talked about now as an All-Star. You guys think Derek White is deserving?
I don't know, man. Wally Zerbiak was an All-Star. I don't feel that passionate.
I don't know. I don't know why I'm very anti Derek White as an All-Star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
What
not
is-
gonna make it though.
What is he? The third, fourth most important player on that team?
No, see,
White,
see
Or
how
would you
I,
put him?
how I feel about the Derek White candidacy is like,
Yeah.
I actually think the more slanderous Celtics thing is to promote Derek White because then you get to shade Tatum and Brown in the same.
okay,
Derek White's actually their best and most important player.
Yeah.
By the way, I would say he's like between 3 and 4.
Okay.
I think Kristaps has been awesome for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then Tatum is
Kristaps
Tatum.
dressed like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Departed the other day.
Yeah. He was dressed like a lot of Europeans. This is like a very classic like European getup.
Yeah.
liked it.
Not quite as European as Domantas Sabonis going on NBA TV in a full denim suit that's super baggy.
Oh, yeah?
With like his like very basic haircut. It was pretty amusing. It happened the
I
other
gotta
week.
check
yeah.
that out.
Damn. What else?
So the three of us talking fashion, man.
Trouble
Dressed like Grimace.
in La La Land, guys. The Lakers lost to the Heat yesterday. That's their third loss in a row. They've lost 9 of 12. They're now 17 and 18 on the season. If you take out their 7-0 run in the in-season tournament, they're 10 and 18
Generational.
in garbage regular season games on normal courts. And this morning, there was a report from Shams Charania that there's a growing disconnect between Darvin Ham and the Lakers locker room around his rotations and adjustments. Yeah, I thought LeBron was having a pretty peaceful LeBron type season, but I guess here we go again.
Well, they lost last night to Duncan Robinson making a whole bunch of huge threes to pull away. Jaime Jaquez Jr. knocking down some big threes. Even Kevin Love getting in on the act, hitting some shots. Basically because no Jimmy Butler in the game, and you're playing the Heat on your home court. Like, even when the Raptors lost to the Heat shorthanded without Jimmy Butler, we were still freaking out to some degree. So, yeah, I mean, I think for the Lakers, it's concerning. They have real, like, championship aspirations. At least that's what they want to do with this group. And it's concerning to me that, like, look, the reporting in this by Bo Shams and Jovan of The Athletic, they had 6 sources confirm 6.
Yo, they said not one,
Yeah.
not two.
You know who they were?
Not
6 is
three.
wild. That's like half the roster,
Six
man.
guys came off the bench for the Lakers yesterday.
Yo,
All 6 of them walked out.
Yo.
Jovan just did a lineup.
Jalen Hood-Schifino snitching.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6.
Yo, 6 sources.
Yo,
Wow.
MJ got 6 rings. Braun
Yo.
got 6 sources.
No, imagine you in court and they're like, "Yeah, we have 6 witnesses." I'm like, "Nah, I'm done out here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done." You know?
Yeah, I can counter.
6
Look, I can
sources.
counter question 1 witness, but
Yo,
6 is too many.
sources is so funny, man.
Honestly, the most concerning part about this game for the Lakers is that the 2 guys they want to trade are hurt: D'Angelo Russell and Rui. This is just so funny though.
This is the new KCP trade package that they have.
It was what was the one back in the day? HBAP from the Nets: Humphreys, Brooks, and a pick.
Oh, my
HBAP, and they just threw it at every potential thing.
Yeah.
You know what? Spicy BBQ is pretty damn good when you compare it to that.
When you're coming up with acronyms for the trade package you're putting in the trade machine, yeah.
Man.
HBAP. Man, this was so obvious too. Like someone even called it on Twitter after the game. So LeBron didn't do media after the game, and someone quote retweeted with that was with like Shams' article in 3, 2, 1, and then there it is.
Well,
Damn,
you know,
man.
people can make the agency connections once again.
Yeah.
Also a little unfair. Sean's getting represented by UTA. UTA represents a lot of people. Like it's hard to connect all of them in one group. That's all. But
Yeah. Anyways,
Other
no
points?
other thoughts on this? Okay.
no, my thought is just
I mean,
6 sources, man. It's an
Yeah,
open and shut
what thought?
case.
Like we've been through this
All right.
over and over again. We went through it with Vogel. We went through it with every other
Who
coach,
do you
like
think's the
Ty Lue
happiest
in
Laker?
Cleveland. Like
Who's the happiest?
Happiest Laker is D'Angelo Russell because he got his $500K for an extra vacation from the in-season. And he's hurt and he's not catching any heat right now.
But he's in every. I mean, I guess he's not catching heat, but he is in every single trade machine scenario that Lakers fans throw out there.
Yeah. Or Max Christie.
By the way, Dennis has been a 2-time Laker. You think they called Dennis? Or to call, I guess, the Raptors for Dennis?
I mean,
Trade him for 7, aka Gabe
Who?
Vincent.
Oh, right. Holy. I was stressed. I was like, 7.
Y'all don't want 7?
Who's 7, man?
No, they call
Carmelo?
him 7 because he's the 7th source. Jovan and Sean just needed just
Yo.
one more
Yo.
quote.
No. Come on.
Every team needs to have a role player that's referred to by their number only.
Yo, that's crazy.
7 is sick, man.
That's like if I called him 19
You don't want
for
7?
Jakob.
You don't want
I don't
7?
think I want 7. Stop offering me 7, man.
You don't think 7 would be nice
First
off
off,
the
he would
bench?
not wear 7 in Toronto, right? Nobody else
Oh,
would ever
yeah,
wear
that's
7
true.
in Toronto.
Lastly, the Pacers beat the Bucks twice this week and finished the season 4-1 against Milwaukee. And Giannis was asked about them losing 4 times to the Pacers, and he said, "quote You think about it. When you go home and sleep and wake up, you think about it. When you go back and work out, you think about it. When you're about to get freaky at night, you think about it."
Yeah.
Is Giannis thinking too much about the Pacers?
Okay, well, 2 things. Number 1, Giannis is known for the corny humor. Like, he actually really likes it and enjoys
Is
it.
Giannis corny or
leans
funny?
into it.
Where do you land on this right now?
I think Giannis also has this thing where, when you do 2 hours of podcasting, you just, like, blurt out a thought that comes to your mind that's kind of funny.
You got 2 hours to fill.
Yeah, like, I think that's what Giannis did here. Like, he let the
Okay.
little horny, intrusive thought just burst out in a press conference
So,
to Eric Name.
Emmanuel Horny.
Wow.
See? There you go.
I just thought because it was against the Pacers, this is so well timed because Rick Carlisle had the quote the other day: being historically great on offense is fun, but even dating a pretty girl gets boring after a while if she can't guard anyone. So
Yeah.
Rick Carlisle is talking about, I need my girl to play defense, and
It's like,
Giannis is
I need
about
to
to
see
get
my
down,
girl's
and
BPM.
Giannis is thinking about Rick Carlisle while he's about to get down.
Oh, fellas, man, when you find out who your
Fellas.
partner wants to be, like, you need to make sure that she can guard 1 through 5 in the modern NBA.
That's crazy.
But that does it for us today. I've
I
been your
want my
host.
relationship to be positionless.
Wow.
That could be a lot
I
of
don't
things.
think I'd want that at all.
Okay, all right. I've been your host, Will. You've been listening to The Raptor Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure to find The Raptor Show wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, review to the show. Thanks to Vivek, Dennis Schroeder, Alex Wong, Blake Murphy, Derek Randale, Jennifer Rolnick, David Sis, Jared Manitat. We'll be back tomorrow.